the escalation of the attack on Ukraine drawing condemnation from countries around the globe. We start our team coverage with Natalie Brand in Washington. And Natalie, what can you tell us about the response to those scenes out of Ukraine?
But a number of lawmakers here on Capitol Hill are remarking about the bravery of the Ukrainian people. But Ukrainian officials say they are fighting this invasion on multiple fronts, and they are asking the U.S. for more help, more support, and much tougher sanctions against Russia. And that call is also echoed by a bipartisan number of members of Congress here on Capitol Hill.
Ukrainian soldiers were seen running through the streets of Kyiv as Russian forces entered the outskirts of the capital city. The defense ministry urged citizens to take shelter and prepare Molotov cocktails and take up arms to defend their city. Ukrainian officials say they downed Russian aircraft. But President Volodymyr Zelensky says attacks are targeting civilian buildings and says his country is left alone to defend itself. President Biden held a virtual meeting with NATO leaders Friday morning, a day after announcing severe sanctions targeting Russian banks, oligarchs, and their families, as well as high-tech exports. Western allies have also imposed their own sanctions, but there are bipartisan calls on Capitol Hill to go much farther.
We need people in London. We need the British government to step up with more targeted sanctions against Russian billionaires in their city.
I'd love to see Russia kicked out of the SWIFT transaction system.
President Biden says European allies are not yet ready to kick Russia out of the international banking system known as SWIFT that allows for money transfers around the globe. They also did not target Russia's energy sector, which is the largest driver of its economy.
Since we haven't hit that, I think that Vladimir Putin right now sees weakness on the part of the West.
A sentiment echoed by Ukraine's president, who says the response so far has not stopped Russia's invasion, which now threatens the country's capital.
And new this afternoon, a major new development announced by NATO. The Secretary General says the NATO response force will be activated, and that marks the first time it will be used for collective security. Now, the U.S. contribution to that, to bolster NATO, is expected to come from those 7,000 additional U.S. troops that the President and Pentagon announced would be headed to Europe. That announcement from the White House was yesterday, Len.
And Natalie, you mentioned the sanctions against Russia. Could there be sanctions against President Putin? Where does that stand?
Well, the president was asked about that again yesterday during his remarks on those additional sanctions, and he said it's still on the table, but we'll have to see whether or not that comes to fruition and how quickly. However, former Treasury officials have also told CBS News that that would be a largely symbolic move. I think what everyone is really keeping their eye on today is the developments with that international banking system known as SWIFT, as a number of European leaders now signal that they might be on board with expelling Russia from that. I have reached out to both California senators' office to get their take on that. No comments quite yet, but Senator Feinstein's office has said she is in favor of additional defense support to Ukraine, Len.
All right, I know you'll keep your eyes on that. Natalie, thank you so much. And the U.S. government is on high alert for the possibility of the conflict spilling over into cyberspace. And Makovic has more on what that could look like and what you can do. And
yeah, I spoke with an expert at San Jose State about this. He said a lot of the online attacks cannot be linked directly back to the Russian state because they often use proxies to do their bidding. But the trademarks are there. They may be ready to hack into our infrastructure like we saw last year with the Colonial Pipeline. Possible targets include our food or gas supply, transportation, or the U.S. bank system. And some hackers are after your identity to spread misinformation.
I mean, I'll give you a simple example. They created a false website for the president of Ukraine, and they have a button there saying support the president. If you click on that, you download a virus into your computer, and now you are part of their attack. They can go to your social media account and start spreading news about it.
The best advice is to make sure your software is up to date. Use additional security measures like two-factor authentication, where a code from an external device or app is used in addition to your password. Also, do not click on strange links on emails or texts. The professor I spoke with said the Russians also have a unique way of avoiding any website that has Russian language in it, so they don't target any of their own. You can watch my full interview with that expert from San Jose State this afternoon on CBS News Bay Area. Len.
All right, Ann, thank you. And as the crisis in Ukraine worsens, people are trying to find ways to help. Palo Alto-based Nova Ukraine is coordinating humanitarian aid, but the nonprofit admits the process has become more complicated.
Unfortunately, some of our traditional routes of help by sending, for example, used clothing collected here that people donate, that is now very complicated, both in terms of crossing the border and delivering things inside Ukraine because of active fighting.
The organization is now focusing on refugee camps and pinpointing exactly where these camps are. Keep up with our coverage right now on KPIX 5, and as always, we're streaming 24 hours a day on CBS News Bay Area.